Okay, so this is going to be my first review of a Doctor Who audio drama. So, recently, about a few weeks ago, actually no, about a month ago, I got my first few audio dramas. I managed to purchase my first few audio dramas. A lot of them were Dalek episodes. For the audio dramas, but it's because I'm such a fan of the Daleks, and at the time I was in a huge Dalek mood when I bought them. I was like, you know what? If it has a Dalek, I'm gonna get it. And I mean, I got some Cybermen ones, and another one with I got a few with with Peter Davison. I didn't get any with Tom Baker, sadly. Got one. I had one with Paul McGann, which I haven't yet listened to yet. The Sword of Orion, which is Paul McGann versus the Cybermen. A lot of Sylvester McCoy and Colin Baker ones. I only got 2 Peter Davison's ones, and one was alright, the other one was fantastic. Spare Parts was awesome. But I'll save Spare Parts for another review. Today I'm just going to be reviewing my 2 favorite of the ones I got. The first being Jubilee, and the one after that, which I'm going to review, is a Sylvester McCoy one called The Harvest, which was these 2 are my favorite out of all the audio dramas I've gotten. These 2 I love the most. So I'm going to review this one first, and this is actually, I know I've always said that Peter Davison was my favorite of the classic Doctors, but that opinion's kind of changed. You see, from the audio dramas and the episodes I've been going back and watching of the classic Doctor Who stuff, I've actually become more of a Colin Baker fan as my favorite of the classic Doctors. Tennant is still my favorite of the current Doctors. He's still my Doctor, but Colin Baker is now my favorite of the classic Doctors. He's such an asshole, and he's awesome about it. So yeah, I know a lot of people don't care much for Colin Baker, but you know what? I like him. I like Colin Baker. But I think I've talked enough. Let's move on to the review. Now, this audio drama follows is basically in this particular audio drama pretty much takes place before Trial of a Time Lord. That was the thing with a lot of these audio dramas. They're like the lost episodes you never got to see. Well, actually, no. I think this is supposed to take place after Trial of a Time Lord or before. I don't know. Sometimes they don't sync up well, in my opinion. That's just me. If Duke is listening to this right now, he's probably going to try to strangle me through his computer. Anyway, this audio drama follows the Doctor and Evelyn Smythe, who is a very little known companion, and both of them, Evelyn and the Doctor, are caught in some kind of temporal shift that makes them go into the TARDIS split into 2 different timelines. One being the early 19th century, and the other one being the future, 2003, I think. Yeah, 2003. They discover that the British Empire has really expanded. It has gotten huge, and it is, holy shit, it's scary. Now, the fun thing about this story, before I go any further, is that this was actually written by the same guy who wrote the 9th Doctor episode, Dalek. So as you can tell, we're going to have Daleks in here, and there is a lot of things in here that are very reminiscent of the episode Dalek, but, oof, it is it. If you thought the character of Van Staten was a total jerk, you just wait till I tell you what the guy in here does. So, we have the quote-unquote ruler of... We have well, actually, let me back up, because now I'm getting tongue-tied. We have the Doctor and Evelyn pretty much looking around at the new Britain, and nothing really looks different, but then they discover that, the British Empire has expanded. The British Empire never really faltered. It actually continued to grow, and it's now like the supreme power of the world. And they're taken to the current ruler of of Britain who is known as Nigel. And I know this is an audio drama, but I could not get the image of Nigel Thornberry out of my head when I thought of this guy talking. I'm sorry. It was when they said the guy's name was Nigel, I was like, damn it. Now I'm gonna think of that guy. But basically, the Doctor and Evelyn find out that apparently in the 19th century, the Doctor led the people of the world, mostly the British people, against a Dalek invasion in 1906, I think. But basically, the Doctor helped them defeat the Daleks, and it's later discovered that they not only won, but they consider the Doctor a hero. I mean, there are movies about him, there are merchandise about the Daleks, there's actually Dalek toys, there's little kids running around with Dalek blasters shouting, "Exterminate." And it's really messed up. It is like the whole world is just wrong. And then we discover that the Doctor is going to be executed because the thing is, they've had people try to say they're the Doctor, and they've always changed his clothes. You know, throughout the history books, they've had his clothes changed. So whenever someone said, "Oh, I'm the Doctor," they'd execute him because they know that's not the Doctor. And then they discover, yeah, this guy could be the Doctor because of his clothing. So then the ruler decides, you know what? Let's put him to the ultimate test. So they take him to a room with another captive. They take him into this room, and it's a Dalek. It is a Dalek who has been there since the Dalek invasion in the earlier centuries. This Dalek, if you thought the Dalek from the episode Dalek got it bad, no, this one has been tortured. It actually got its vocal cords severed. It's had its gun forcefully ripped out. It has been tortured again and again. Like, you really feel bad for this Dalek throughout this entire story. And it's just a soldier. It calls itself the last of its kind because it might well be. So when the Dalek says, "Yeah, that's the Doctor," they're convinced it is the Doctor, and they convince the Doctor and Evelyn to stay for this thing called the Jubilee. The Jubilee I'll get into. Right now I'm going to talk about the rulers of Britain. They are the most messed up people I have ever heard. I'll talk for a second about the Nigel. Nigel has... Okay, let me explain how crazy this guy is. He actually has short people, dwarves. He puts them in these Dalek suits forcefully, and there's actually one scene in the one moment in the audio drama where the guy can't fit all the way in, and he's got his arm caught. So he's like, "Oh, you can't get in because your arm." He takes a knife and cuts the dude's arm off, and he starts bleeding to death inside the Dalek suit. And he's doing this all right there with the Doctor. And he's like, "Oh no, I have to play crazy or else the Daleks' mind control will get me." And the dude is just generally crazy. That is the scary part. The wife, on the other hand, oh, that's even worse. I mean, she even goes as far as to try to marry the Dalek. Yeah, you heard me. There's seriously some really messed up moments in here. Like, there are going to be parts where you're going to want to stop the audio drama, you're going to want to pause it, or just stop listening for a bit and just wait to take it all in. That's what I had to do some points, because these are some really horrible people. I mean, when the Daleks finally arrive, you are just cheering the Daleks on to kill everyone in that entire area when it gets to the Jubilee, the day of Jubilee. Like, the most chilling part for me was when you hear the crowd of people. I'm trying not to say "see." When you hear the crowd of people chanting "Exterminate," that is the most creepiest part ever. There is something cool done later on, and there is another prisoner that the that they've kept locked up in a tower, and you feel a lot worse for him than you do. Well, actually, no, you still feel really bad for the Dalek, but when you find out who the other prisoner is, you're gonna literally want to stop the video and be like, stop the audio and be like, oh, let me take that in for a second. I'm not gonna spoil it here, but it is really good. Jubilee, I'd really recommend this if you're a fan of the, if you're a Dalek fan, if you're a fan of the Daleks like me, or if you're trying to get more into the audio dramas. This is a good starter. This was a good starter for me, and in fact, I just got this out of random. I just love the hell out of this. This is what got me starting to like Colin Baker the most. I mean, Colin really... I know this is an audio drama, so there isn't really no animation, no video, no nothing. Just use your... this is a real good way to use your imagination and just think out the scenes. And it's done really well. It is... Baker gives his all here. Colin Baker gives his all here. It is just a fantastic audio drama. This, like I said, is probably one of my favorites so far, if not my true favorite. I mean, this is a great Dalek story. This is a great Doctor story. And like I said, it is done... there is a lot of parallels you can make with the episode of Dalek, because it's from the same writer, and it's kind of the same story, but this is what the writer really wanted to do. This is something he really wanted to do with the episode of Dalek. So, yeah, it is like I guess you could say it's a remake of the episode Dalek, if you want to look at it that way. But I'd still highly suggest it. I really would recommend this. I absolutely love this one. So, that's my first one, so stay tuned for my second Doctor Who audio drama review, in which I review the Sylvester McCoy story, The Harvest.